Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webcast. We're going to be talking about saving time and money with this easy data management strategy. I'm Joe Frank, and before we get started, I wanted to let you know that you can submit your questions by typing them in the Q&A panel at any time. I'll address them at the end of the presentation. So a little bit more about myself. Well, as I say here, I've got SOLIDWORKS and PDM, or SOLIDWORKS PDM and Manage expert level. Been working on SOLIDWORKS PDM for, well, almost 10 years now. I've got 25 years of automotive Tier 1 experience, doing a lot of research and development and product launches. So as I say, been there, done that. But I have seen it all with regards to engineering. If you think about it, I admit I'll date myself when I say this, that I started off back when we had drafting boards and pencils and had to have a lot of filing cabinets for a lot of drawings. So you think about starting with our data management strategy back in those days where we had just rows and rows of filing cabinets. And I've had a lot of coworkers jokingly say, yeah, Joe, you've seen a lot. You've gone from pencils to PDN. So we've watched the evolution of our CAD world and our engineering world to what it is today. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I want to cover 4 key areas. I want to talk about intellectual property, and at first that might make you pause and think, well, we're talking about PDM and CAD data. But I want you to think about that phrase intellectual property, because we often talk about, well, the network drive, the G drive, I'm talking about, archive data. But, we're going to talk about that. I want you to think about the phrase intellectual property. We're going to poke into a quick look at the software, where I'll do a little day in the life so you can get a feel for what that user interface is like. And we're going to talk about our proven process. And when I talk about process, it's how we're going to work this path moving forward. And at the end, we'll do a little Q&A session for anything that came up during the demo. Intellectual property. So again, let's think about that phrase. We all think about our network folders, the F drive, the G drive, whatever it's called. We go out there to that quagmire of data to try and find files. And some of us say, well, it's legacy data when I think of our CAD files or archive data. But, it doesn't matter whether it's a network folder and we're pulling our hair out just like this photo here. And once again, I date myself, but I love the old Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's some days I know all of us have looked at this photo and said, yeah, that's what the network drive does look like. I can't find anything out there. And we hope our CAD data is a little bit more fortunate than that. It's a little more orderly and organized. And usually we try to keep pretty good rein on it because, again, we've got a little bit of a focus towards maybe some revision control, and we're still feeling some pains. And, well, maybe we're starting to get collaborative. It's just not me and 1 or 2 other users. Maybe there's several users, and maybe they're even in different facilities. I can't just holler at them over the cubicle wall. But you're feeling pains. That's probably why you're here today. You're saying, yeah, I'm looking for a better solution. Right now I'm in an antiquated vault. I'm in a competitor's vault. I'm just not happy. I'm not in a vault at all. I'm in a network folder out on, where I'm dealing with just a Windows environment. Well, if you're in a Windows environment, there's been studies that show, and I think we can all attest to this, maybe not with our CAD data, hopefully, but 50% of our data is duplicated. And we've all seen that where, yeah, I got to copy that file because I can never find it when I need it, so I just copied it in my folder. Well, is it the latest and greatest? Is it up to date? Where is the master copy of that file? Well, I don't know. I just know I have my copy that I keep because it's handy. And 7% of our data is lost. And I know every one of us has felt that pain. I'm looking for a file. I just can't find it. I know it was here just last week. It's been renamed. It's been moved. Where did it go? We've all pulled our hair out and saying, where are these files at? So I think this photo does it justice. But I want you to think about all this and remember, we're talking about intellectual property. It's how we do business. If this information was gone tomorrow when you walked into work, every one of us, our jaws would drop. We'd say, well, I can't figure this out. I've been working on this casting for 6 months getting this thing all drawn up. I'm ready to send it out for tooling, and the tool maker is going to spend the next 12 to 16 weeks cutting steel. What do you mean the files are gone? Well, that might be a real heavy example in the CAD world, but it could be something as simple as a spreadsheet you've been working on for 3 or 4 days. You can't remember everything you've done in the last few days on that document. Think about that intellectual property. It costs us. It means something to us. It's more than just data. It's more than just legacy information out on a network folder. So while you're thinking about that, Let's take a quick look at the software. So I'm going to jump into my user interface, and right off the bat, you're looking at my screen, and you should see a Windows Explorer, but as I jokingly say, it's on steroids, because it is. We take Windows Explorer and we add on to it the PDM environment. So when a user logs into the Vault, like I'm logged in here, and I'll go right back to the root of my Vault, they're going to see some folders and files just like we do on a network drive. It should be very comfortable to look at this and say, well, this is no different than a network drive. Yeah, I see these green folders, and green means I'm inside the Vault, where yellow folders mean I'm Windows folders, I'm out on the network drive. So I've got those files and folders, and, well, let's go into one of those folders and take a look at some of these files, and we realize, okay, well, this user interface is kind of similar to Windows. I can move some columns around here and organize these and shrink them up a little bit. Well, I can even sort by part number or sort by state. I can do that in Windows, but it's not just file names. If I click on a file, and, well, right off the bat, I see something much nicer than a thumbnail like I would get in Windows. I've got e-drawings at my back that says, hey, I'm going to open up this file for you and let you whirl it and twirl it. I can even turn on some tools and measure right inside this window. I don't even need SOLIDWORKS. I just need the client software installed, and that e-drawings hook is there, and I'm able to look at my files far more acutely than I could before. So that already starts to help me find that information quickly. It's about finding it and reusing it. You know, so we're starting to think about, oh yeah, probably some pains trying to find that data before. So we're starting to recognize PDM's here to help you with some of those pains. Well, in this case, I've got these 3 files. I've already changed the state of them. I'm using a workflow process that says, well, these files aren't released like the rest of these files are. These 3 particular ones I'm getting ready to make a change on. I'm going to actually check them out. So a simple click of the mouse, this window pops up, says, hey, you're going to check out these 3 files. Are you okay with it? And right off the bat, any other collaborative users, they don't even have to be over the cubicle wall for to holler at me. They know that, hey, Luke's working on these 3 files. They're in a work in process state. Look at the revision. They went from an R to an R+. Everybody has no problem understanding who's working on files in this project folder. If I pick on, say, the assembly, you know, I'm getting ready to make changes to these, but let's talk about this interface briefly. You know, I'm looking at the preview, but I can pick on the data card, just as its name actually kind of implies. It's a card, or as I jokingly say, it's like a sticky note that's carrying all that extra metadata, that important information about my files that maybe I don't want to put on my drawings. It's that intellectual property of how we do business. Maybe there's extra attributes here, and like most customers do, we map your custom properties straight from your SOLIDWORKS parts, assemblies, and drawings right to these data cards. And these data cards are customized for the different file types and different locations in your Vault, because again, it's trying to give you an easy-to-use, pleasing interface that says, yeah, I can quickly see that data and work with it. I can click on a Bill of Material tab. And again, at a glance, I can see a bill of material for that assembly we were just looking at here a moment ago. If I pick on the drawing, see there's a bill of material table on the face of that drawing. Well, that table down here says, hey, because there's a table, PDM says, I'll sniff that out and I'll put that bill of material table right up on that screen for you. You could now modify that BOM table in the face of your drawings for consumables out on the shop floor to give you a truly manufacturing representative bill of material. Then this bill of material that's on that drawing would push through to PDM, and then with 2 clicks of the mouse, I could have that BOM up in Microsoft Excel. It's pretty nice. I could export this to our ERP system, or maybe I just want this to start a project spreadsheet and start building from here and work with purchasing and start figuring out where these parts are going, who's making what out on the shop, what's going to be built in the purchasing or by other vendors. I could even go so far as to come over here and actually compare bills of materials. Right here, I can compare 2 different bills of materials. Why? PDM keeps track of all my history. I don't lose that history. That granularity is kept. You know, how am I working on the latest version? Do I know it's the latest version? What version is it? Well, we're going to take a look at history in a few minutes after we make some changes to some parts. But let's go ahead and do that. So I've got these 3 files checked out. We'll go ahead and open up SOLIDWORKS quickly here. Once SOLIDWORKS fires up, we're going to use our normal tools that we're all used to navigate to our Vault environment and open up our files. So normally you're used to navigating to files through a network folder. Well, my vault is still just like a network folder, so it's nothing more complicated. I'm going to say I want to open a file. Oh, I don't want to work on that vault. It's asking me to go to that vault. I have several vaults on my machine. But we want to actually go to our PDM Pro Vault. That's where I'm working today's webcast, and we're going to go right into that particular folder. Move this screen over a little bit. I'm going to head into the drawing. I like to always start, is what I say, the top down. So we'll open up the drawing in SOLIDWORKS. And notice while the drawing's opening, we've got a new task pane over to our side. With PDM, you get what's called a PDM or SOLIDWORKS PDM task pane. So let's watch what goes on. Everything we've been doing so far has been in a Windows Explorer interface, but over here, now we're working inside a SOLIDWORKS environment where my users can stay focused in here. They don't have to bounce between Windows Explorer and between SOLIDWORKS. They can stay right in SOLIDWORKS and get in the zone, and they can interface the vault over here. So for this quick change, I'm just going to add some lightener holes to the part, and PDM's watching what I'm doing. I'll go ahead and save the changes, and over here inside PDM, I can just click the mouse and check in the file. I get a window that says, hey, you want to check in these parts? Sure. I'll say I added lightener holes. Keep some comment history going, and we'll see that play out here in a moment. But I'll go ahead and push those changes through. I've released the file back to the vault. SOLIDWORKS and PDM are talking nicely. I'll drop back to my assembly. Okay, it sees that I've got the holes added to the part. I'll go ahead and save those changes. It says, hey, I've updated the assembly to reference that latest sprocket that you just added the holes to. Well, maybe I don't check it in from SOLIDWORKS. And in a real world, we all know that once I'm back here to the drawing, I should be doing some work on a revision table, noting in the change history what's going on. Maybe there was got to do some balloons out here because the bill of material possibly changed. But let's say I already made all those changes. Again, I'll save the drawing. And over here is where I can watch and check in those files. So maybe I'm done at the drawing level now. Let's go ahead and check those in. So I get another screen that says, hey, I want to check in both these for you. You done updating them? Sure. It's trying to think with me. So I'm going to say, you know, maybe I want to say updated per details. And again, we'll see the comments play out here in a moment. I'll put a space in there. We'll go ahead and check in those files. So PDM's been helping me through the task pane over here, navigate through my data and work on my files. But it's been pretty seamless. It hasn't interrupted anything I'm doing in SOLIDWORKS. So I'll drop out of SOLIDWORKS and we'll come back to our vault view. When we come back to our vault view, we can see I don't have those 3 files checked out anymore. We can see that Luke isn't working on them. So that collaborative environment, people are feeling pretty comfortable about. But now I want to push the changes through my workflow. I want to actually release them. We can see they say they're in work in process. I've got a pretty simple workflow that I've set up for this demo vault. So I'll go ahead and say I'm going to submit these files for approval, and I'll go ahead and push them out. It says, please enter a comment. Oh, I forced my users, my designers, to enter comments. And maybe I'll say ready for review. And I'll go ahead and say okay. So now these files, notice they changed state. So they're waiting for pending, they're in a pending approval state. Now, I was logged in as Luke. He was a designer working on the files. So I'm going to have to, for demo purposes, I've got to log off of the vault. So bear with me. I've got some difficulties on my side here. Let's move that. There we go. So I'm going to have to log off my vault as Luke, and I'm going to have to quickly log back into my vault as a manager. Let's say I'm logging in as an engineering manager, so I'm going to go back into my vault, but this time I'm going to log in as Paul. Paul's the boss that's allowed to approve my files. So when Paul does that, maybe he comes to the folder and he does some looking on the project folder. He sorts by these states and he sees the files are waiting for him. He says, oh, well, I can look at these changes real quick and see that Luke's made the changes on the assembly and the drawing and the part. So he's feeling pretty comfortable. He's using that state column as kind of a dashboarding tool. So again, it's supporting the revision and collaboration issues I've got. I come over here and I just release the documents quickly, and again, I get another screen. I can enter a document notice in there. So let's go ahead and say I approve in the comment field. Things are looking pretty good. I'm feeling good. Let's let PDM push those files out the door. So PDM does a couple things behind the scenes. It's going to go ahead and run a PDF for me. So it's actually going to open SOLIDWORKS, and it sees that a drawing was released in this package of 3 files, so it's automatically in the background going to make me a PDF and push that into my vault, as well as you can see the state's been changed on all 3 of these files, and that the revision has jumped all the way up to revision T. We skipped over S because that was a revision letter, say this customer didn't want in his scheme. It's a letter he avoids because obviously it looks like 5. So it can be misconstrued at times. And again, these columns, I can manipulate them and do anything I want. So in the background, the PDF was being made for us, saving those redundant chores and eliminating that effort from our engineering staff or anybody. So I love when PDM does that for me. As I say, it's beginning to pay me back. It's a return on my investment. So what have I seen? Well, let's take a look. Maybe you weren't watching the demo. Maybe the manager says, well, what happened to those files? Did you make that change the other day? Well, the manager can come in here, and he can right-click on the files, and he can select history, and he can see where, well, we started the demo at R, and we moved through needs revised per ECN. I added some Leitner holes. I'm seeing a very granular history. PDM itself is listing all these lines, all these versions, keeping track of who did what, where, when. There's the date stamps, who was the user, and you can see my comments as I enter those comments. How many times have we all grabbed a CAD file or any file and said, is this the latest file? Am I working on the right version? It's bad enough when the wrong version gets to the shop floor, but it's even worse when I updated the wrong version, and now I've made kind of a part that can't exist. I made a revision go from B to C, and I accidentally used A. Well, so all the changes that remain B are now gone from the part. And I know it sounds rogue, but we've all been there, done that. This gives me the granularity and the control to know precisely what's going on. I've even had customers use this during an audit trail if they're going through an ISO or a TS audit. So it comes in pretty handy just to specifically see that. And you didn't have to do anything. PDM kept track for you. All you had to do was maybe enter a few comments to help build that information database. Over here, we saw the files were released, and matter of fact, while we're here, let's go take a look. There is our revision T of our drawing, where it actually made our PDF and put it back in the vault. So maybe this is where production can actually come to the vault and see those files. And just like anything else, the history is still there. It's not lost. There's our old revision R of our drawing. There's revision T, the latest one we released. History is never lost with PDM. We always maintain that history and track it because it's just as vital as that current intellectual property that we're keeping track of. So we see it in the file, we saw it in the part file, we saw it in the PDF file, and if I were to even come down here to the assembly of the drawing, right-click, select history, that information is there. Maybe you wanted to see the part beforehand. Well, we know what the part looks like now. We click on it and do a preview of it. Let me click on that file. Oops, I double-clicked it. So I click on it, well, there's the assembly with the Leitner holes in it. But let's say I were to actually right-click on that file and say I didn't know it was something as simple as Leitner holes. It was far more complicated. So I couldn't graphically catch what was there. Maybe it was the number of teeth in the sprocket or something like that. I select history, and I come down here to revision R, and I say get. And because I have permissions, it's going to roll back the hands of time on my machine and say, hey, I'm going to roll back the hands of time and go take a look at that stuff. And when I hit close, the assembly reverts back to what it was before I started the demo, before I started processing that change. Of course, PDM's smart enough up here. You can see the icons have changed, and it's keeping track on my machine, not up on the server. I'm not erasing the hands of time and changing the information, because at a simple mouse click, I can say get latest, and a screen pops up and says, we'll roll those hands of time back forward to current time, and now we're looking back at our assembly at where it should be with the holes in it. So again, what have we seen here? We've seen how it supports collaboration. At any time, a user can glance up here and see who's working on a file and what the state is of the file. So I get an idea of what's going on with my data in my project or as a team. It obviously supports revision control. We watched our files go from R to T for the revision column. It did that automatically. I didn't have to control that. It pushed it through to the face of a drawing. Boy, that makes it pretty easy. We don't have to worry about that with history giving us the wrong version of a file out to the shop floor. Then we threw a little bit of tasks in there to give us a nice quick return on our investment. So it really starts to show us why PDM can help us manage that intellectual property. How can it help us control it? So let's come back to our PowerPoint slides. we've had a quick look. We've got a little feel for some key pain points that we're probably up against with this intellectual property, starting to appreciate that, yeah, it does mean something to keep this data under control. It should be housed in something far better than just a Windows folder environment, you know, where we get in trouble too many times and not deliberately. But let's talk about the process. So what is this process? Well, Fisher Unitech has a process that I don't want you to walk through by yourself. I want you to appreciate how we are going to walk this PDM path. So here's my analogy. I love analogies. Look at this rope bridge here. What's wrong with this bridge? Well, it's got a solid floor. That looks like some pretty new womanized lumber down there. I'm not afraid to walk on that. Ropes are fresh and tight. That looks pretty good. It gets me from point A to point B. I'm going to cross over that little stream there. The water doesn't look like I want to go wading through that. But you think your wife and kids are going to walk across that bridge with you? Yeah, come on, Dad, let's go across the bridge. Yeah, everybody's going to walk across that with a little nervousness, and heck, my toes are even tingling just thinking about it. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a solid bridge, but I'm a little nervous. How about this bridge? I'm going to walk across this bridge. Is there anything wrong with this one? It's got the same womanized lumber on the bottom. Well, there's nothing wrong with this bridge. You wouldn't even think twice. You'd carry on your conversation as you walked across it. You might even stop to enjoy what's going on. Why? Because this one's solid. It has a clear definition. There are no concerns about the path you are on when you walk across this bridge. Both of them got you from point A to B. Both of them had a bottom. Both of them had the sides. But that's the difference between how we do business when it comes to PDM and how others do. The last thing I want you to do is be concerned about the PDM process. How are we going to walk that process? How are we going to walk that path? Well, what is that process? What is that path, Joe? Here it is here in pie chart form. So it starts by you picking up the phone and saying, yeah, the reason why I got on this webcast is because I'm having some pains. I'm having some concerns. I think I should be using PDM or something to help me manage. I need a strategy. I need to strategize how to do that. Well, pick up the phone, give us a call. We'll do a discovery call. We'll feel your pains. We'll help you appreciate those and understand those, and then we'll do a tailored demonstration. You'll see a file set like mine, or maybe a file set that you send me, some sample files to see your unique files in one of our vaults, and we actually run them through a workflow. We'll talk about workflows. We'll figure out exactly what you need to see PDM do to feel comfortable and knowledgeable. That's my job. That's where I come in as an application engineer, to give you the knowledge and the skills to make an informed decision on, is PDM what you need? You move to the next step. You say, Joe, I really like it. It's what I have to have. Good. We'll do a scoping call. You and I will write up a statement of work, and then we'll do a review of that statement of work to make sure we both agree and understand exactly what you want that vault to look like. I'm not here to change how you do business. I'm here to make a vault work for how you want it to do business. The last thing I want to do is see a software change how you do business. It will never get embraced by the users. Too much change. Then we'll train you. Geez, that training sounds up front. It sure is up front. I want you to be able to speak the speak. You'll spend 3 or 4 days in class learning this software with me or one of our other instructors, and when you're done, I'll know you're right, because I'll know you learned it when you're taking the implementation phase to a whole new level, because the consulting engineer is calling me saying, wow, you trained them good. They're jumping right in. They're wanting to help me build this vault, and they're saying, hey, just hang on. We're still building your vault. We're ready. We're getting close to going live. Hang on. We finished that implementation. You're chomping at the bit to jump into the vault because you know how we're building it. You're not afraid of it. We migrate your data, and we do dress rehearsals on this, and we validate, and we verify. Why? Because it's not just data. It's intellectual property that's important to you, and it's years of growth. And then after we do turn the thing live and we hand the keys over to you, you're still not alone. There's that go live support. We always know, I'd be kidding if I told you there was no bugs. There always are small bugs with users not having permissions, doing things. We sort it out. We're prepared for it when we go live, but you're not alone. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to teach you to fish. I want you to be able to be self-sufficient in this PDM environment, but the last thing I want is you to feel like you're walking across that rope bridge. I want you to feel confident and secure that that intellectual property is being handled appropriately. That's our process. So let Fisher Unitech help. we can take that warehouse to something that looks far less daunting and not like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark and all those shows. I can bring your warehouse of data to a far more pleasing and suited environment that it should be for that expensive years and years of growth. So again, don't be intimidated by PDM. As I always say, you don't know what you don't know, but through that scoping call and that demo and that whole feeling of, what are your pain points, we'll walk that path with you. Pick up the phone, give us a call. Let us start that process today. So this concludes the presentation portion of our webcast.